think they recorded the album together. They replaced the drummer because my cousin, who was a drummer, had to leave for family reasons. But yeah, man, as far as recently as maybe 2, 3 years ago, they were still jamming together.
Wow.
So, and as far as myself goes, I didn't join my first band until I was in college, and we wrote some songs and we posted them on the internet. And back then it was when that was starting to happen. This is maybe around 2004 or five, and I don't know what happened to those recordings. I wish I had them because
Yeah, me totally. Yeah.
they're probably horrible.
Nah, they're probably great.
I mean, quality wise, because we recorded them using like a microphone, uh, like a handheld microphone, put up against the
Oh,
amp speaker
okay.
to a computer, like direct, not even any mixers or anything, just record like.
That's kind of cool though. It's kind of
Yeah,
that's pretty nostalgic.
yeah, oh yeah, man. Back then it was. Even now, like I have a little bit more of experience recording. I still try to experiment with stuff like that. Like, man, like I wonder how this would sound. Because back then we didn't know any better. Like it was just again pick up the mic, put it next to the speaker, and play something, and hopefully it'll sound good. And
Yeah. Hey, there's a lot of stuff out there, that when people blow up and they get big and people find that stuff, it's like the hidden gems that nobody knew about. So
mm,
stuff like that's super cool. And it gives off like this old school nostalgia feel. So maybe they're out there somewhere. So somebody might have them. Maybe they'll pop up. They'll be like, "Hey, I found this," and they can send
yeah,
it to you. That'd be really neat.
that'd be awesome, man. I would feel good about that. But I mean, I don't know if I'd feel horrified after listening to the
Well,
song. But
it's like, yeah, but it's like, I don't know how you are, but most of the podcasters I talk to, like, we don't like to listen to ourselves talk. You know what I mean? Like, most of us, we do it, we love to do it, but nobody wants to hear themselves. Same thing, like, I record some of my music too, and when I do, everything is bad when I play it back. I'm like, oh, that's terrible. That sounds bad. My wife's like, no, it sounds great. I'm like, no, I can do this better. This sounds bad. It's an artistic thing.
yeah, of course.
So when you were in college and you joined your first band, let's talk about that. How did you get in the band? What kind of music was it? Were they people that you knew? How long did it last? What were you guys doing? Were you playing live? Let's talk about that a little bit.
Um, it was the band itself went through a whole bunch of lineup changes as any good band would when they're starting out. So it was a friend of mine from high school that's from the same town that I'm from in Mexico. I mean, it's literally across the border, so it's like a 20-minute drive, and I'm in Mexico, and that's my town.
Okay.
So that guy and I were friends, and I actually met him in high school. And so once we were in college, we caught up again with each other, and he's like, "Hey man, let's start jamming together." So he plays guitar too, and he recruited a drummer and a bass player, and we started jamming. And like I said, I wrote a couple of songs, or we together wrote a couple of songs, and put them up somewhere on the internet. And then the drummer had to leave, and we got another drummer. And then my friend that I started the band with, the guitar player, had to leave too. So that left me as the only original member, I guess. And
It's your band
we
now.
found, yeah. So and from there, it went through a revolving door of drummers and bassists and guitar players, this and that, until by chance, I don't know how it happened, that the guy that was playing bass and singing, who was the one that, I guess, the second guy that came in, he found a guitar player and a drummer through a classmate or something,
Mm.
and we started playing live around that time. We played a few shows here locally in the South Texas area. We never really toured anywhere because we weren't together long enough. I think we were together for about 5, 6 months maybe. And then people started leaving again for different reasons. And then after that, by the time that was coming about, I was already going to finish college and getting a job. So I was like, oh, but I can't do this full time anymore. So we kind of folded up the tent, so to speak. But I'm still friends with the guy I mean, all of them really. But I've been closer to the guy that my bass player friend found as the guitar player. And he and I still jam every now and then. We actually recorded something a few years ago, but it never got finished. I don't know what happened to that. I mean, I know I have the songs with me in the computer, but they want to go back and re-edit some things, and I was like, well, I mean, just do it. Like, it's already done. Like, just release that. And so, anyways, yeah, that's the story of the first band that I joined, I guess.
So did it ever really were you guys playing out or anything like that, or was it just kind of like a jam band? What was it going? What was going on with it?
Well, our style, it was kind of weird because we kind of wanted to. Back then, again, being like 2004 or five, whatever, it was around. or it was about rather playing songs or in the style that was like 80s rock and metal. So we were going kind of for like a Megadeth type of meets 2000s rock in a way. So it's kind of a weird mixture. I mean, if you want to think about it.
I can picture it in my head. Were you guys playing Were you guys playing all original music?
Yeah.
Oh, respect.
It was. I mean, we had about 5 songs, and the way, I mean, I'm sure you got some experience if you play shows. They book 10 bands per show, you know, so you got 20 minutes to play.
Oh no, I'm like a living room legend, man. I just play by myself. That's me. No playing out.
Yeah, so they would always book a lot of bands for one night, and there's about anywhere from 6 to 8 to even 10 bands playing on a single bill, and that's over a span of like 4 hours that the show lasts. So we had about 4 or 5 songs, and that was about 20-25 minutes of play time, you know. So that we play that, and anytime we try to figure out how to play a cover, we couldn't do it because we would never agree on a song to play. I think we played a Megadeth song. I think we played Symphony of Destruction.
Nice.
And I think we might have played Enter Sandman. I'm not sure. Those are like the compromises that we arrived to, and it's okay. Everybody likes the songs. Yes. Okay, let's learn these.
Yeah, right. Got to find the stuff everybody can agree on.
Yeah, because even the audience would enjoy them. So we play that. I think those were the only 2 covers that we learned in that band, actually. Yeah, I think so.
I like the music you guys are playing, though. Like I can picture what you're saying about kind of like Megadeth meets like 2000s. I don't know. I could see that being like working together pretty well. You know, maybe something that's had a little bit older feel, but maybe like, you know, a little more modern, maybe a little heavier. I don't know. I could see that though. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, and I was never really into a band like Lamb of God, for example, but one of my friends was, and he played the songs for me, and I was like, well, I'm not a big fan of the singer. I mean, personally, but I thought the riffs were cool, so I was like, okay, so I can see that as being, I guess, the closest example that I could give you of the music that we're trying to play, but with different types of vocals. As far as it being like thrashy, but also kind of modern, because I think Lamb of God tunes down to D standard or drop D or something like that.
Yeah, they're low.
So yeah, that's kind of the vibe that we were going for, I guess, in a way.
So do you like to play a lot of like drop tuning?
I started experimenting with that around that time, and when it comes to my own music, I'm actually working on some songs that have. It's just I tune my guitars for the most part to E flat, so half a step down.
Okay. Because
that's again Slash and Eddie Van Halen, dude. That's all they played in. Pretty much everybody that I liked when I was starting out was in E flat, so I had to tune to E flat to play along with their songs. So it just stuck with me.
Yeah.
And when I tune to drop D, for example, it's drop D flat, so half a step down and then drop D.
Nice.
Or I will do D standard for some of the stuff that I write.
So like,
but I hardly ever play in standard tuning, man, unless I'm playing in a cover band or something, which I've done too. But
yeah. I started messing around. I picked up this guitar from a pawn shop and fixed it up. It's a nice, it's a ESP LTD Viper, but it's like a 30th anniversary. And all I do is I put big fat strings on it and play drop B riffs on it. Because it's fun.
Awesome, man.
Yeah, it's fun. You know, it's just fun.
Yeah.
I got Seymour Duncan Invaders on it, so they're like, it's too much. It's really too much, but it's a lot of fun. Oh yeah, but it's fun. And then I have a Marshall in it, and it sounds good, but it's it's a lot. So when you were starting out, what did you go right? Did you gravitate towards, say, like the Gibson Les Pauls because you were like a fan of Slash and stuff like that? Like what's your guitar of choice?
Definitely, man. Back then, that was the guitar that I was looking for. I was looking for a Les Paul guitar. And so my first guitar ever was not a Gibson, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But it was a Epiphone Les Paul. And it was one of the cheaper ones back then. I think it was like $150, $100 maybe. So I begged my mom, I want a guitar for Christmas, and I pestered for like 3 months before the fact, you know. And I remember her telling me, in Spanish, mind you, but the gist of it was, I don't want to see this guitar being put away in your closet in a week or two. I want to see you playing it. If I'm gonna buy this for you. And I was like, I'll play it, don't worry. And 20 years later, I have a room full of guitars and speakers, and she looks at it and is like, oh, what did I do? Kind of like.
Yeah, but she facilitated a love for you that's gonna last a lifetime. Yeah. And you know what? I think that same thing your mom might have said in Spanish translates in all languages, because I think all our moms would have said the same thing. Like, don't put this shit in your closet. You play this thing. So you play more Les Pauls and stuff. Is that like mainly what you own now?
Now, no. Oddly enough, I kind of started drifting away from that. I mean, I still like the feel of a Les Paul guitar. It's unique to that type of guitar, man. It's that weight. I mean, I don't have a Gibson. I have a couple of Epiphones, but it's just that weight on your shoulders, man. That thickness in the neck and the way when you hit the strings, those pickups respond differently on that guitar. I don't know why it is. It's just kind of like a magic thing happening. Some little weird pixie dust flying around in that
I know
cavity,
exactly what
whatever.
you're talking about. Yeah.
But it's kind of unique. I mean, even on the cheaper ones, I mean, you can tell the difference that it's not as good, but you can still tell that it wants to roar, kind of.
I don't know. I have a Gibson Les Paul, and then
Uh,
I also have a 1995 Korean Epiphone. And I mean, don't get me wrong, the Gibson's a little nicer, but there's something special about that Epiphone, that Les Paul. It's a Les Paul standard. It's just old school. It's got the sunburst, finish on it. I know what
mhm.
you're saying though. Like, I think a lot of people sleep on Epiphone too much because they do make really good guitars.
Oh yeah,
They're out there, but you go online and stuff, and people dog them because they're not Gibson. But you got to give them a chance. They're still really
yeah,
good guitars.
yeah. Because one of the things that I've noticed, it's like you say, it's not so much a brand thing or a price on the instrument thing. It's about how that instrument responds to the way you're playing it and how you respond to it too, in
Well,
turn.
and every guitar has its own personality, and
Yeah,
you could have two guitars that were manufactured in the same place at the same time on the same day, but one might feel different or sound different than the other one. That's just for people who don't play guitar. I don't know how you are, but a lot of guitar players that I know, we tend to want to talk to people about our guitars, whether they play
oh
guitar
yeah,
or not. We're kind of we get we get crazy like that. But it's like my wife. I try to explain to her. I'm like, yeah, I've got a few guitars, but they're all different. She's like, no, they sound the same. I'm like, no, they don't. They're all different. So we probably sound like crazy people trying to tell people, no, they're all different.
I mean, like I mentioned, I don't have kids yet, but I figure that's kind of the same feeling for me. It's like, look at my guitar. This is a Les Paul, and this is a Strat, whatever it is. And they're like, okay, it's a guitar. And no, they're. I mean, not only do they look different, but they sound completely different
Oh
from each
yeah,
other. So
they feel
there's.
different.
Yeah, but I understand where she comes from because my mom was the same way. She's like, I don't know why you have so many guitars if they all sound the same to me. And I'm like, well, to you, but to me, they all each serve a specific purpose, and that's why I got them because this guitar does something that one over there doesn't, and I want to be able to have both of those sounds available to me at any time. So I need those two.
I'm laughing because this sounds like the exact conversation I have with my wife all the time.
Yeah, man, and yeah, and it's the same way. Like I'm not currently dating anybody, but anytime that I've dated somebody, it's the same thing, dude. It's like a replay every time that they see my guitar collection. It's like, why do you have this many guitars? And it's like, oh, here you go.
Yeah, got to go down that road again.
And like my rant starts, and like 2 hours later, I'm done, and they're like, oh, I don't want to hear anything about this anymore.
So I swear, most guitar players are the same. We all do the same thing.
Oh yeah, man.
So what do you find yourself like? Do you still mainly play the style of music you were playing back, when you were a kid, or like what has your taste changed over the years?
Definitely, man. I mean, as far as guitar choices, like I was saying, I kind of started exploring other types of shapes and brands because I noticed that I couldn't get certain sounds from the guitar that I had. So, second guitar that I ever got was a Jackson because of Marty Friedman from Megadeth, and that I love that thing. And I had to retire it because I messed up the neck. I tried to paint it, and I left it in the heat for too long. That was my fault. So I had to retire that guitar. But I found that Jackson, for the most part, makes guitars that I like a lot, quite a bit, as far as the shapes and the feel of it. Something about a Jackson neck just makes it real easy for me to kind of slide my fingers up and down real quickly. And so I like that brand a lot. I think I have maybe like 3 or 4 Jacksons currently. I think. Yeah.
Nice.
So, and as far as the music, I mean, I started, like I said, with the glam rock, 80s rock, heavy metal, stuff like that. But then as I started getting older, I started craving more, not necessarily heavier music, but music that was kind of hitting me a little differently. So I started getting into stuff like Iron Maiden, and then, like I said, Megadeth too. And then I discovered all the guitar shred stuff like Steve Vai and Yngwie Malmsteen, and I got into that for a while. And then it must have been around right before I got to college. So about 2-3 years into my guitar playing career,